Sure.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Well, I've connected up with a mayor of a town in Ukraine and his wife, who actually grew up in Mississauga. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. I want to introduce you to Bogdan and Maria Kelichavyi. Is that correct?
It's Kelichavyi.
Kelichavyi.
Yeah.
Bogdan and Maria Kelichavyi. And Bogdan is the mayor of what town, please?
It's Kopychentsy.
Kopychentsy. And where is Kopychentsy?
This is western part of Ukraine.
Excellent. And how long have you been mayor, sir?
It's 1 year.
1 year, and must be just unbelievable the last month being a mayor of anywhere in Ukraine. Tell me what you've been doing for the last month.
It's been war, so we are volunteering a lot, and we are building our military defense unit. We are supplying our soldiers, we're drafting our soldiers, and we're also receiving internally displaced people here.
How many internally displaced people have you had through your town?
It's about like 15% of the population.
Really? And what's the population of your town?
The population of the town is 13.5 thousand people. It's like the municipality, so it's a town and a couple of villages.
Town and a couple of villages, and I think many of us in Canada and the West are getting a little bit more familiar with the geography of Poland, and Kiev is sort of in the north central, and Lvov is in the west. Where are you relative to those two major cities?
So we are closer to Lviv.
Lviv,
and,
sorry.
It's like 200 kilometers south from Lviv.
So you're towards Moldova.
Romania, yeah.
Yeah, and Moldova. It's Ternopil region. So many of your listeners may have heard about Ternopil.
Now, you have not. Have you been bombed at all yet, or any of the impact of what's been going on in the eastern and northern part of Ukraine impacted you as of yet?
Not yet. So our biggest challenge right now is the internally displaced persons. But we did see a rocket fly over the sky about 1.5 hours ago, and it just hit Lviv.
Now, I don't think a lot of people appreciate how large Ukraine is. It's 40 million people, or at least it was. So bigger than Canada in population. Is that not correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And the territory is not as large as in Canada, but it's the largest country by territory in Europe. So it's larger than France or Germany or Spain.
And so if one went from the westernmost to the easternmost part, how long would it take in normal times to drive that?
In normal times, I think it would take like, I don't know, maybe more than 1 day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a big country.
Yeah, it is.
And so for you to have gotten that many displaced people, and they're talking about now 10 million people potentially that have left, that have been displaced, 3 or 4 million that have actually left the country. That's a huge amount of movement of people.
Yeah, exactly. So just so people understand, 3 to 4, like you mentioned, million are abroad, but we have to understand that about 6-7 million are still in Ukraine, and obviously they're seeking shelter that's relatively safer. And of course, that would be the western part of Ukraine. So that would be the Carpathian mountain region, that would be Lviv region, that would be our region. But I guess the bigger cities, bigger regional offices, they're trying to disperse people to smaller towns, smaller communities. And of course, a lot of these communities, our community wasn't ready for such an inflow of internally displaced persons. So there was a lot of work that had to be done, that's still being done in order for us to be able to comfortably shelter these individuals.
So how have you dealt with that?
So the very first thing that we did, obviously, we understood that we were going to have a lot of people. We started to churn our
We've lost our connection, so we're going to take a quick break for messages and come back more with Bogdan and Maria from mayor and his wife from a small town in Western Ukraine. And Maria grew up in Mississauga. Be back in 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Really fascinating to chat tonight with Mayor Bogdan Kelichavyi, who is the mayor of a town in Western Ukraine, and his wife, Maria, who actually grew up in Mississauga. And so it's an interesting, fascinating connection. And Maria, you were just saying that your internet breaks down fairly often, and you think it's what? Because the Russians are trying to interfere with connections and communication?
Potentially. I mean, there are already cases where they're targeting like radio stations and TV towers and so on. So sometimes, the companies that are affected by this in other regions, they are experiencing technical difficulties in the entire nation. So sometimes we do have these breaks of communication. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you connecting back in. So you were just saying what your town has been able to do to deal with all the internally displaced people. Maybe you could sort of continue on with what measures you've been able to do in the last month.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before I cut off, we did set up a kindergarten, and there we're able to host about 150 people. We were also able to have our community members, provide their homes, spare bedrooms. Some, have apartments. We have some individuals that have left abroad or have been abroad, and they've also opened up their doors, and their relatives who had the keys were able to open up their homes to host these individuals as well. In the community, we're trying to set up different events so that our community members can meet with the newcomers, because that's very important for them to understand that they pose no threat, because we do get some information of potential Russian spies that are coming into Western Ukraine. And there are cases where the secret services have caught many of them in Western Ukraine. So that's why our community members obviously are weary of that. But, on a administrative level, I think my husband can touch up on that, because, they've really stepped up the safety in the community by setting up cameras, by organizing the Territorial Defense unit that's also, is doing night watch and so on. So we're really making sure that our community is safe, our community members feel comfortable, as well as the individuals that are coming into our community.
That's interesting. But then, Mayor, that's got to be a challenge. I haven't heard about that before, about spies, and it makes logical sense that that the Russians might try to do that. How are you protecting yourself from some of these displaced people not being potential Russian spies?
So basically, whenever someone comes to our town, we check their documents, and also when somebody wants to stay here, we put them to the special register. And this register we share with our Territorial Defense unit, and also to the police and to the secret services. So we all kind of like try to really be aware of who is living with us, but at the same time we need to protect those people who come, because most of them are like peaceful citizens who just lost their homes. So we also need to eliminate any like chance of conflict inside the community.
How are you able to get goods? Are you able to get your grocery stores supplied, and heat and light and power? How's all that supply chain working?
So yeah, so far like we have heat and power, but I know that in other regions we don't. As a member of the Association of Mayors and one of the board directors, I have like contacts with other mayors, and we have different situations from region to region. And in our community, it doesn't look like we have too much of food shortage in the stores. And also we are near borders, so we have a lot of help, like humanitarian aid from other places, and we try to organize that. But we know that in other and we actually sending like today we send like a huge like a truck with supplies to the city of Mykolaiv, which is southern part of Ukraine, and they just have nothing to eat, and we send them a lot of food and medicine and like the hygiene products and things like that.
So the goods are able still to come across the Polish border, the Romanian border, to come to?
Yeah. Yeah, mostly Polish border. So basically, we have like volunteers working on the border, and whatever comes from the rest of Europe, it goes there, and then we transfer it to through our border to mostly to the logistic centers, and we have one of them here in Kopečinci, and then we distribute it personally to whoever like need it.
Yeah, so this is in terms of the humanitarian aid. However, the food supply chain, obviously it's been affected by, some of the businesses, the grocery stores and so on, they're still able to get their goods through the Romanian border, the Slovakia border, as well as the Polish borders.
And tell me about your territorial defense. So is this something that is established by the town and the mayor, or is this by a province or a state? How are these different defense forces organized?
So first days we didn't have much instructions, but then like the rest of the government started like helping us organize it. Mostly this is like civilians who were civilians in past, like us, but all of us, we feel like we need to do something. So very quickly we try to organize our defense unit and collect more volunteers there. I cannot talk a lot about it, but because like yeah, maybe it's not good, not smart to talk a lot about it, but we have like a lot of volunteers, and most men and even some women, they are doing their like trainings, and they are learning a lot of military things, and they are doing like patrolling the city and the villages, and watching some of the strategic objects that we need to watch.
And are you erecting some defenses in case the Russians come your way?
Yeah, so usually how it works in other regions, because again, we are not that much affected, is that the Ukrainian army is doing like one strategic military operation, and the defense unit is like doing this cleaning, so like the army is shooting with a huge caliber, and the defense unit is kind of like checking the homes, because most of these fights are in the cities, checking homes and like trying to eliminate the enemy from the rest of the area they need to do it.
Now understand that men between a certain age aren't allowed to actually leave Ukraine. Are they being drafted into the army? Are they volunteering to go into the army? What's actually happening?
It depends. We have like a couple of waves of drafting, and first of all, there were like our reserved soldiers that have previous experience of war with Russia in Donbass, and they went like first days. So most of people are still here, and they are in a local defense unit, but they can be drafted like whenever it would be needed. But so far, it's not like everybody is there. Like most of people are still here.
And there are volunteers that are, going just by themselves.
Yeah. So there are like basically two ways to go to the war right now. Is if you have like previous experience of it, or like a military kind of background, then you go there, or you just want to become a volunteer. So you basically go to the military office and say like, I want to be a volunteer, take me please. And otherwise, most of people are waiting, and we're not allowed to leave the country, except for if you are a volunteer, or like there are some other exceptions. But also like we started like allowing people go through the border, because if they need to transfer some of the humanitarian aid, so they just go there and back.
Do you have friends or family in either Kiev or the east or the south, and what's your sense of what's going on?
We have like my brother lives in Irpin. This is the suburb of Kiev, and they got like a rocket to their house. So they're living on the 6th floor, and the rocket is on the 13th floor. So their building is destroyed a bit, and the city was occupied. So they're here from day one. And you have friends.
And I have a really good friend in Kiev right now. She's in Lviv. But 2 days ago, so they left really quickly still in the very first few days of the escalation. 2 days ago, her husband went back to Kyiv, to their apartment, to pick up some of the documents and he set up a camera like in his apartment so it can view like the streets and so on and so forth. And he went down to load up their second car to take it back to Lviv. And the camera was on. While he was loading up the car, a cluster bomb hit about 5 meters away from him. That's the only thing that saved him, because he got down between two cars, which protected him from the remnants. And the camera just shows like the sound and just the glass, the shattering, and it was horrible. She sent me pictures, of their apartment and video of their apartment, and I just literally, like, the couch that I stayed on when I visited her like a couple of weeks ago is just shattered to the ground.
Maria, tell me, how do you feel? How do you come to terms with this? You grew up in Mississauga, how do you come to terms with that couch you stayed on just a little while ago has been blown to smithereens by a cluster bomb?
I mean, honestly, I'm shocked. First of all, everybody is shocked that anything like this could possibly happen in, 21st century, in 2022. And for me, growing up in Canada, in such a peaceful country, just to see what is happening here, like, I can't believe that, there's so little that's being done by other countries, other governments, that nobody can stop this right now. People are dying. I have friends who are fleeing. I have friends and their families are underground, and they're hiding, and their cities, their towns, their relatives are being bombed and shelled nonstop for the past 30 days. And to me this is just devastating, really. And I've spent a few years in Ukraine now. The past, 3.5 years, I've been here in Ukraine, and I've just come to love, Ukraine, because the people here are amazing, and the views and the values, they're those values that I grew up in Canada. And to me, just to see that that freedom and those values and everything is being, put just jeopardized, and that's being taken away from everybody, from all of us, is just something that I can't cope with at this point. But honestly, it's hard for us to come to terms with our emotions, because we understand that everybody, wherever we are, we have a role, and we have to make sure that we do everything that we could in order to stop this. So, that's why we're doing a lot of the humanitarian aid. At the same time, the economy is taking a huge toll right now. So I'm still trying to work in my old job, and we're doing like double shifts, doesn't matter, day or night shifts, everything. We're working nonstop, because everybody, and the international support that we're getting, friends from Canada, from all over the world, is just, it's giving us hope that the world is with us, and that this will end. It will end soon, and it will end in our victory.
Well, then, you're a mayor. Tell me what the attitude of your people is.
Well, my people were never so united as they are now. And there is no opposition here anymore, or like anything like that. Everybody is cooperating together and trying to do the best they can. Of course, my people are in emotional shock and panic, and they don't know what to do. But the best way to cope with all this load of information is to be involved. So a lot of them, they become volunteers, and I encourage all of them to volunteer, because if you volunteer, you get at least distracted from the news and from whatever is going on, and you try to put your energy into something productive.
Your wife says that ultimately you'll win. Do you agree?
I think informationally we already won this. We just need to finish it military. And I think that if everybody would be united, if everybody would be trying to protect basic human values, and we do what we can, like as we described, and our army is doing a great job. But if everybody else would be also on the same page with us, I think that we will definitely win. And this military victory will be followed after the informational victory as well.
The impact on the economy, as Maria said, has got to be unbelievable. Number one, because of, obviously People are not working and they're fighting. But then number two, the destruction of your infrastructure, of your homes, of your cities, at least, in the East and in Kiev, are massive. How are you ever going to rebuild?
As I said before, like our people were never so united as they are now, and it's not only in our community, but it's in our country. So we fought our freedom, and I think that we will start rebuilding our country if we get a chance of it, or when we get a chance, with even like twice the speed.
Yeah, so at this point, actually, just to add, about 50% at least have lost their jobs. So 50% of the working population is not working right now. Obviously, that's taking a huge toll on our economy, but we are really relying on international aid at this point, other countries showing their support, because we will need, the funds, first of all, to rebuild all the infrastructure, as well as hands. My brother, who's also in Canada right now in Mississauga, I have some of his friends are messaging me saying, hey, listen, we're not good with guns, but we're good with a hammer. So as soon as this thing ends, we're there, we're gonna come and we're gonna help rebuild your country. And to me, having somebody just like Canadian, Italian, I think he is, saying that and just showing their support like that, I think that's what's going to help us rebuild our country.
There's been lots of talks about some Ukrainian Canadians or French Canadians, lots of people that have volunteered to go fight. Have you seen any presence of that?
Since we have no front lines here, so we don't. But we heard a lot about it, and
about the Foreign Legion, I think it's called, and you can go to like the Ukrainian embassy in your country. You can apply, fill out an application. I guess they do some sort of like a check to see if you're eligible, and then we have no exact connection at this point, but we did hear that this is something that's working right now.
We're chatting tonight with Bogdan and Maria. Bogdan is a mayor of a town in Western Ukraine. Maria is his wife, who's actually from Mississauga in Canada. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Bogdan and Maria in just a minute. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We've got fascinating guests. Bogdan Kelichavyi, who is the mayor of a town in Western Ukraine. His wife, Maria, who is from Mississauga and has been in Ukraine. Maria, did I understand, for the last 3 years or so?
Yeah, that's correct.
So I got to ask you, how did the two of you guys meet?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I was born in Ukraine, and I was born in this town, and we met in kindergarten. Where
we're now hosting the refugees.
You met in kindergarten, but then Maria, you moved to Canada?
Yeah, so my family immigrated when I was little. So both of my parents and my brother are currently in Mississauga.
And how did you re-meet after obviously a few years of not seeing each other?
So
social media.
Yeah, social media. And then I was studying in Europe, and she came.
And you said, I remember this cute girl from kindergarten.
Yeah, like we knew about each other's existence, but we never like had any like meetings after that, after she left. And I was still growing up here. But then like after some period of time, we decided to meet in Paris, France. So starting from that period, we were like together, and until now.
Fantastic.
So also we did both live in Canada. So Bogdan did also live in Mississauga for almost a year.
For 1 year, yeah.
Oh, really? Excellent. Whereabouts did you live?
Square One area.
Square One area. Well, it's fantastic that we're connecting. Thank you so much. Maria, maybe I can ask you, Ukraine for a while has been having some movements toward joining the West, and people and some parties and some presidents have been interested in joining the EU and have expressed interest in NATO. And the West, EU, NATO have been not accepting Ukraine for a couple of reasons. Number one was that there was a sense that there was a lot of corruption in the economy and in politics, that the democracy hadn't developed to the extent that Ukraine should be allowed in. With your experience living there for the last couple of years, before this war started, what did you think of the democracy, of the level of corruption, of the economy? Is Ukraine a country that should have been allowed into the EU in the past, do you think?
So first of all, the main difference for me was, the Ukraine that my parents left and the Ukraine that I came back to are completely different countries, in my opinion. So, the stories that my parents told me about Ukraine, the stories that their friends were telling about Ukraine, and the preparations that what they were doing for me, telling me that it's not the same as in Canada, this is different, and this is different, and this doesn't work this way. For me, I was being prepared for a totally different scenario. When I came to Ukraine, I was really surprised because it just felt like I was in Europe. Obviously, we lived in Kyiv for a few years, and before, the elections, and before we moved to Western Ukraine. And obviously we traveled all over Europe. We've lived in France, we've lived in Estonia, we've lived in Portugal, we've lived in many European countries. And for me, to say that Kyiv, Ukraine is any different from any of those, I wouldn't say that in any way. I was able to get a good job. I was able to continue with my professional career. I was able to do any of the, leisurely things or cultural things that any other country in Europe is doing. So for me, in terms of the values, they were very, very similar. So I really do see Ukraine as part of European Union. Even now, I was in a Zoom call yesterday with the UN Commission, the Women's Status in UN Commission, and a lot of them were discussing the refugee issue. That there are so many people that are leaving Ukraine, and that there's millions of people that are in Poland and Germany and so on. But the main difference is that all of these people that are there, I have many friends who are in Poland and Germany and all over Europe. They're waiting for the day when all of this ends and they want to come back. So the refugees that are coming into Europe from Ukraine, they want to come back. They want to come back to Ukraine. So they're not fleeing because this is like economically unstable and so on country. The past couple of years, I've seen a lot of opportunities in Ukraine in terms of many projects. Many companies are able to establish their businesses here. Culturally, Ukraine has been really showing its true colors in Europe. So to me, again, it's completely two different countries, and I see Ukraine as any other country in Europe.
Have either of you traveled in Russia?
No, I haven't been to Russia. I think you have.
I've been to Russia before the war in Donbass once, in St. Petersburg. Just like a short tour because I like traveling. But since they started like aggression against our country, we stopped even thinking about going there, because it's like a totally different country, and it's totalitarian, and they can you're at war with them,
Yeah,
so,
no, I understand. So I've been in Moscow, I've been in St. Petersburg, I've been in Kiev, but that was about 12, 15 years ago. And my sense of Kiev was, at least this was a decade or longer ago, was that there were some people that were really connected to Russia. There were Russian banks, there were Russian accounting firms, there were Russian businesses, and then others that were very Western oriented. And a lot of those people were very connected to businesses in Moscow. Has that changed dramatically? And Maria, you were describing how you think that Ukraine is like any other European country. How would you describe Russia? Is it like Ukraine, or is it dramatically different in its culture, in its values, and it's the way they do business?
For me, it's difficult to say. I'm not too keen on Russian culture and so on. But I think one of the main things, when you said you visited Moscow, you visited Kyiv 15 years ago. One of the biggest things I think that really have I don't know, have really changed is the Maidan, right? The Euro Maidan that happened in 2014. So this was really a breaking point. This is when a lot of people started to understand that we, even if there is some connection to Russia, a lot of people started to break these connections. So a lot of businesses stopped doing business with Russia. A lot of, we also, a few years ago, we had the language laws that came out that, you have to be served in Ukrainian, everything has to be in Ukrainian. The last couple of years, we've really seen that even in terms of culture, like in terms of music, maybe before everybody was listening to Russian music and Russian artists, but the last couple of years, so many new amazing artists have, come up to the Ukrainian cultural scene. So I've really seen more this national progression in terms of, pushing Ukrainian culture to Ukrainians, even to really, like in terms of tourism, to so many cities, and so in the mountain area also, they really focused on internal tourism to show Ukrainians, that our country is beautiful, and you don't need to go somewhere else where you can find the culture and everything you need here inside.
So one of the justifications, Bogdan, that Putin has for this war is this supposed denazification of Ukraine, that the Russian language and Russian-speaking people were prejudiced in Ukraine. Do people speak Russian in your town? I know it's in Western Ukraine that a lot of people don't speak Russian, but how are Russian-speaking people treated in Ukraine in your mind?
In my town, we don't have Russian-speaking people naturally, but since we lived in Kiev and we have so many friends, like some of them also like Russian speaking in their everyday life, not in public field, but in everyday life. So I don't feel any problems and any tensions on that. But now I think that the biggest denazification, what is happening here is in Ukraine. This is what Putin is doing, because Maria mentioned before, like her friend who just got her apartment bombed, and this is captured on camera. And I never remember this friend of ours speaking Ukrainian. She was always speaking Russian. And we're just like, this is normal for us. We speak Ukrainian, she replies in Russian. This is like normal everyday life with us. But now she's switched completely into Ukrainian, and now her posts are only in Ukrainian because of Putin,
so
probably. Yeah, because people started like hating it, because most of these cities that are bombarded now, they have the biggest population of Russian-speaking Ukrainians, but it doesn't. This cultural similarities between Ukraine and Russia, it's only a surface. It's a surface of the consequence of occupation of our country by Russia. That's why naturally, like we have some similarity, maybe like from the Canadian perspective. But if you try to compare these core values that we're having, we are very different nations, and it doesn't matter what language people speak. It's just like if you are Ukrainian, you are more tempted to speak your mind, you are more open-minded, you are more able to go to protests, you value freedom better, which is not the case in Russia. And that's why that's like the core things that are making difference between us. It's our neighbor, and we have like friends among like everywhere, like in any country, but it's just like our country is different, and we just want to protect this being different, so we don't oppress anybody. We are very open and tolerant, but we just want to be able to have our own path.
Well, then what motivated you to run for mayor?
Just a sec, because we have like guest volunteers from our.
Bogdan?
Yes. When I was in in Mississauga, actually, I noticed that we got a very interesting reform starting in Ukraine, the reform of decentralization of the municipal governance. And this was always what I was interested in. And we got like a couple of international projects coming in to Ukraine. So I thought of, okay, this is what I want to do. So that's why actually we left Canada and went to Ukraine because of that opportunities. And I started working for the US funded project here in Ukraine, supporting local municipalities like this one. But after some period of consulting and providing some financial aid to the communities, I felt like I wanna have this like a real experience of being a mayor and to feel the taste of local governance. Maybe it was not the best time because it was in the middle of COVID and now in the middle of war. But you know, it's still a huge experience. And since this is our own, like our native town, we thought like we can come here and improve it as much as we can. And this is our like the main goal here.
Unbelievable. And, you know, who would have thought you would have had both COVID and then a war? How are you dealing with the stress of being a mayor during a war that almost to everyone else, as Maria said, that's something no one ever imagined we'd be having in the 21st century. It almost seems like it's 1945 all over again. How are you dealing with it?
Yeah, that's true. There is a lot of stress, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just young. I'm 30 years old, so I can like handle a lot of it. But still, I can like describe that. Like in the morning, even if you didn't sleep much, you still wake up in the morning from some ideas, from some thoughts that you have to do. Like, and it just like you simply don't get a lot of sleep. And you cannot get a lot of sleep, and so yeah. And you talk to people. We try to get connected, and this stressful situation, on the national level, makes us closer, and we are more tend to meet each other, talk to each other, because we have one common enemy, and we try like to behave as a social group here.
You've spoken about how Ukraine has become unified. I think that the West and NATO has also become unified, and your president is one of the main reasons why that's happened. Tell me what you think of him.
Yes, I think this maybe, this is a good luck for us that our president stood his ground, and he showed like his position, and the rest of the world saw him as a great example of the country which will never give up and just protect human values even in such a difficult time. So yeah, we have like some internal political tensions sometimes, you know, like it's a democratic country. We are famous about that. This is one of the differences between us and Russia, because we have this political discussion here. But since the war started, nobody is like even trying to discuss that. Like everybody is believing our president, everybody is believing our government, and try to do whatever we can to support and to do it on any level we can, like on the local level as a city hall, and on the personal level as like a NGO or like some charity funds or volunteers.
We're chatting tonight with Bogdan and Maria. Bogdan is mayor of a town in Western Ukraine. Maria is his wife. She's actually from Mississauga. We're going to take a break for some final messages and come back with some concluding comments in 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Just an amazing conversation I'm having tonight with Bogdan Kelichavyi, who is the mayor of a town in Western Ukraine. His wife, Maria, who's from Canada, from Mississauga, and they went to nursery school together, kindergarten together, found each other through social media, met in Paris, decided to get married, lived at Square One area for a while, and now are running a town in Ukraine. At least Bogdan is, and Maria tries to help out. Bogdan, what's the name of the town, please?
It's Kopechinci.
Kopechinci. And where is Kopechinci versus Lvov and Kiev?
So it's 200 kilometers south from Lviv. This is Ternopil region.
And are you mountainous or are you flat?
We have like some hills. I wouldn't call it mountains, but we have hills.
And how far from the Romanian or Slovakian border are you?
It's 100 kilometers from a Romanian border.
Oh, so you're
It's
close.
on the highway to Bucharest, the capital of Romania.
Oh, okay, excellent. Maria, we were interrupted by some people coming in, and you were saying that every evening on the weekends you do what?
So not every weekend, obviously. What happens is we have this humanitarian aid center, and we're doing a lot of work for the last 31 days of war nonstop. We have volunteers coming in, whether it's locals or whether it's just internally displaced persons that are living in our community currently. They're working day and night, helping us provide humanitarian aid all over Ukraine. And just today, we loaded up a truck filled with humanitarian aid that went to Mykolaiv. This was 15 tons of food, hygiene products, baby products, and so on. This went out today, and our volunteers did an amazing job today. So we invited them over to our place, for some time to spend an hour or two, hopefully of peace and hopefully of no air raid sirens that we would have to go down and take shelter. We're hoping that we're going to have an hour that we could thank them for all of the work that they're doing in our community.
When you say go down and take shelter, is that what, into a basement or into a bomb shelter or into what?
Whoever has what. For us, it's kind of like a mini wine cellar in the garage. That's something that we've cleaned up and using as shelter at this point.
Unbelievable. Maria, you've got, you said, a brother and parents in Mississauga and some friends. Do you have a message for people in Mississauga tonight?
Yeah, so first of all, we everybody in Ukraine appreciates all of the work that our diaspora, our Ukrainian Canadians, as well as Canadians, are doing, going to rallies. I know every weekend, I think every Sunday, there are rallies in Toronto that people from all over GTA are going. We thank you for that, and we obviously want you to continue to do that, because we can't have the world to forget about us. Obviously, this war has been going on for 8 years, and the full-scale war has been on for 30 days, for a full month, and we really need your support to continue to do so. If you have a chance, contact your MPs and PPs to tell them that more actions need to be taken from Canada as a country, and as well. And as well, if it's possible, help in terms of humanitarian aid, in terms of funding. We need all the help that we could possibly get from all over the world right now.
Well, then, what about the rest of the world? Do you have a message for the West about what you think we should be doing?
Yeah, of course, I want to thank everybody who is supporting us, and we feel the support from the ordinary people, and yeah, just keep doing that. And we are just wanted to tell that we are very similar to any our like peers in any other countries, and we also want to thank to everybody else who is already helping. For instance, like we are going to have like a fundraiser in the city of Bozeman, Montana, United States, and this city will be like fundraising especially like for whatever our community is doing, like supporting others, so like on the front lines. Also, I would like, if it's possible, to ask the rest of the world, please ban Russian economy. Please don't buy anything from Russia. Please join the campaign of leaving the companies from there, because if we drain their resources, we will get peace, because there is no other country that could stop Russia here, like because if they start like and when they would start like attacking like smaller countries like Baltic countries and Moldova and whatever the appetites are, this is the only chance to stop them together, and I think we'll do it.
Well, then, people have been amazed that that the Ukrainian army has actually been able to stall the Russian invasion. Why do you think that's happened?
Because of our mentality, because of our spirit. Historically, we were very kind of like, we are valuing our freedom all the time, and this past 30 years of independent Ukraine showed us like how valuable it is to be a free country. Maybe not a perfect country, but a free country with our own like decisions and to make. And for us, like we are 30 years old, but we already were born in free Ukraine, and there are a lot of people like that. So we don't want to give up our freedom. I think that that's the only reason. And everybody is trying to get involved and help with anything they can. Like we procure a lot of things, and we produce a lot of things to protect our soldiers, because our army is having enough of things for our soldiers, but we have so many volunteers now, and we have to supply them too. So this also shows the example how what's the spirit of our country, but at the same time our sky is not protected, and maybe we'll use this opportunity to remind that our sky should be closed. And if the rest of the world would be able to help us with that, we would be so grateful, and we would continue developing our amazing country.
You said that you thought that Ukraine had already won the information war. Do you actually think Ukraine can win the war on the ground?
Of course, we can win the war in the on the ground, like in 2 days. The problem is the sky again, because Russia has too many rockets and too many like flights and planes. So we just need to watch that. But on the ground, like you can see, like even the city of Kherson, which is like also not a big town, it's occupied by Russia right now, but every day they have protests. And this city is in the south of Ukraine, so I would assume that some people would be like fans of Russia, but no, it doesn't look like. And they have huge protests there against the occupation. So on the ground, it's very easy for us to win, but on the sky, we don't have technical possibilities for that right now.
Bogdan and Maria, thank you so much for joining us and telling us a little bit about what it's like to actually live in and be mayor of and work in a town in Ukraine during the most amazing experience that anyone could ever imagine. And as Maria said, amazing. No one ever thought this would happen again in the 21st century after what a disaster 2 world wars in the 20th century were. And you said that since what happened in 2014, you've been at war. I think that's probably the case, that really, and if you compare it to sort of history, the 2014 probably was comparable to Hitler's movement into Austria and Czechoslovakia in the 1930s. And I worry that that this invasion of Ukraine is comparable to the invasion of Poland in September of 1939. And if we'd only known what was going to happen for the subsequent 5 years, we would have taken far greater action in September and the fall of 1939 than the Western world did. And I worry that we need to learn from history, and we need to support Bogdan and Maria and their countrymen far more than we are right now. Otherwise, they're right. Bogdan's right that maybe the next movement would be into the Baltic states or Romania or Moldova, and it'll be comparable to what happened in World War II. And so, the only way to stand up to a bully is to stand up to him, and I think that's what we got to do. So I want to thank Bogdan and Maria. Bogdan, Mayor of, remind us, what's the name of the town, please?
It's Kopechinci.
Kopechinci. And Maria from Mississauga Square One area. Thank you so much, Bogdan and Maria, for joining us. And please come back. And if you find a displaced family that are in need of a house in Mississauga, please tell them to contact me, because I've got some room that I'd love to help you and your country people out. Thanks for joining us. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Good night. From the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. And if you guys get a good internet service, you can listen to your show at 6 o'clock my time, which would be midnight your time. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
That was great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. Thanks, Brian.